Live and exclusive on talkSPORT. The Premier League is back and it's Manchester City against Liverpool. Simon's alongside me, so too is Arsenal invincible Martin Keown. Martin, I mean, when you look at it, how important is it to psychologically get one over your title rivals in a season? I mean, at this particular time in the season, what would it mean to Liverpool in the longer term to win tomorrow?
I think it's immensely important for Liverpool because this is kind of a new group now with Jurgen Klopp. They fell away massively last year, but yes, they've been the team in and around City. That's becoming the fixture in modern day times. But you're going to what is the equivalent of Fort Knox, really, going to the Etihad to play against Man City. Jim, they're just about, and I don't want this to be a history lesson, but they're just about to if they can win again this weekend, that'd be 24 consecutive wins at home on the bounce for Man City. It just shows you how complete they've been now in the last 2 or 3 seasons. Quite magnificent.
Yeah.
Now, whether they can do that, it's up to Liverpool, really. They now play a slightly different game. It used to be the best passers versus the best pressers, as we used to bill it. Now it's something different. I think Liverpool are trying to play a little bit more football. They have a group of players, though, that still, for me, apart from Salah apart, the rest of their front line have still got some work to do to convince me that they're consistent enough in their performances. So but
you think it's impactful this early in the season? We're still in November.
Of course, it has to be.
Yeah.
You know, they can go top of the table. You know, so that's a huge incentive for them. They went to Spurs and got a draw earlier in the season. I think Liverpool have the only game they've lost was against Spurs. Which was, a tough afternoon for them, shall we say. I don't want to bring VAR back into the thing, Jim.
Please don't.
Let's just eject that for a moment, VAR.
I like that.
Could do with an eject button, couldn't we?
I like that. There's a message. Jim looks like he could run the cabin service on talkSPORT Airways in that outfit. Thank you.
He's quite right. He's quite right, actually, isn't he? So
you think, yes, it is impactful.
But I don't quite see the magic in this Man City team. But that's mostly away from home. At home, they've been quite magnificent. But it's a new team, isn't it? Rodri wasn't around when they lost the games to Wolves and they lost to Arsenal. No Gundogan, and we know, I think it's a huge miss. And when they went to the Emirates earlier this season, Arsenal won. I thought they lacked a bit of that magic. I can still see the pattern of movements, the triangles, the next generation coming along, but not quite the magic in the really big games. And this is a huge game for them, albeit at home. So you see them as the favourites. But Liverpool now are starting to change gear with their performances. So they will have an impact tomorrow.
How many are in this title race, would you say, Simon? Are we talking about Manchester City, Liverpool and Arsenal? Or Tottenham there as well in fourth?
No, I think the three that you described are primarily in the title race. I think the argument was being made that Tottenham will be in it. I think Tottenham will be in the top 4. So if you think that the top 4 in a title race, I think that's probably a fool's errand, because atypically the 4th spot normally is quite some significant away from the top of the league. So I think it's Man City, Liverpool and Arsenal, and I think it probably falls into that order at the end of the season.
It's interesting. Danny Murphy sitting in that chair you're sitting in today, Martin. He said Liverpool have the edge over Arsenal regards being City's closest contenders. This is Danny.
It's firepower for me with those two. That's the key. I think there's lots of arguments with Liverpool Arsenal where you can say you'd rather have him than him and all that. We could go there all day. And the managers, both, terrific guys doing good things. Klopp's obviously got more experience. Of course, Klopp's got more experience, and I'd say, yeah. But when you look at Liverpool's firepower compared to Arsenal, so I've just mentioned Núñez, Salah and Diaz would be my front three. And then you've still got Jota and Gakpo to back them up. I don't think when you name Arsenal's, you feel the same.
No.
So Liverpool's firepower for me is when I look at the two teams now, I think they'll finish above Arsenal because of their firepower.
Liverpool got the edge, do you think, Martin?
Well,
firepower?
I think if we just look at the names and we look at those players individually, you could say that. You could say that, but not if they don't go and perform, not if they don't show some consistency. Like you look at it, Gakpo's a wonderful talent, hasn't really clicked yet. Jota has been injured quite a lot of his time at Liverpool. Diaz has dealt with some really difficult things, hasn't he, this season? We know that his father was kidnapped. What an horrific thing to go through. Núñez, incredible talent, but hit and miss in front of goal. So that needs to settle. If he really clicks, then that looks good. Salah's the one proven player. He's done it. He's been there. He was part of the Mane, Firmino threesome that was outstanding. When I look to the Arsenal group and I say, well, okay, we've got Saka and Martinelli, I think are pretty damn good, and they've been good for the last two years. They're very, very consistent. Jesus sits in a box all on his own, where when he's at his peak, You know, as we saw in the Champions League, he was quite magnificent. Assisted one and scored one, but then he gets injured. So then there's this inconsistency of a regularity of performance. We can't really be sure.
Liverpool just got the edge.
Well, then it's down in Nketiah, Trossard and Nelson. And you could say, OK, looking at the names, then they're behind. But again, who takes the opportunity? Who seizes that opportunity? It can look good on paper. Liverpool probably does look better on paper, but they've got to go and do it. And then this weekend represents an opportunity to do that, Jim. So it's now that you start to fulfil your potential. And Klopp will be beating that drum.
Yeah.
But Arsenal, don't dismiss Arsenal, because if they click again, we know. But you have to look beyond that. You have to look into the midfields. Liverpool, brand new midfield now, Jim. Completely new midfield. No Milner, no Henderson. All these guys have left the building. And I like the look of Declan Rice coming into that Arsenal midfield. I know there's still work to do. There's still surgery in there. No Partey most of the season. Havertz hasn't really clicked. But I tell you, he's one hell of a player, and he could make a huge difference in that midfield.
Simon, football loves a conspiracy theory, doesn't it? So here we've got Manchester City against Liverpool this week, and apparently there have been complaints raised regards Chris Kavanagh, the referee's appointment. People calling out the fact that Kavanagh, on social media by and large, but Kavanagh, of course, was born in Ashton-under-Lyne in Greater Manchester, 5 miles from the Etihad. Hang on, that must make him a City fan.
Yeah.
I mean, where do you go with this kind of thing? It grows arms and legs. It starts and then it rolls and rolls and rolls.
I mean, I'm assuming that they would have done the appropriate checks and balances and understand who they're putting in place to referee in games. And if we're going to make decisions based upon social media and certain contributions from social media, then we're not going to get very far. So I think it's a ridiculous scenario. And of course, if you wanted to look into most situations, you could find some indexing to something that you might find unpalatable or unfair or disadvantageous to you. And the interesting, going back to Martin's point about the firepower at Liverpool and the comparative firepower at Arsenal, I understand his point, but if you look at the goal scoring ratios of Núñez and Jota and Gakpo, they are scoring one goal in 3. You look at Arsenal's firepower, at best it's scoring 1 in 3. You know, you've got Martinelli doing significantly less than that. The only person that's getting near 1 goal in 3 is Jesus. And that is hit and miss with his injury record. And then you've got Nketiah. So I think Danny is right. I do think that the firepower at Liverpool is significantly greater. Yeah. And if you look at their performances but
they have to deliver, don't they, Liverpool now?
But they're delivering delivering on the same basis. And if you look at the new midfield players that Liverpool have got in there, I think this is a massive upgrade from what they had last season. Look at the Hungarian boy they've got in there. He's a proper player. And also, they've got Alexis McAllister, a World Cup winner. That's a very. So I think Liverpool are the side, and I think Arsenal, like I said earlier on in the year, needed to spend as much money as they did to even have a chance of standing still, let alone progressing.
Is that a conversation that players have, Martin, about the referee? Oh, you see who we've got today? So and so. You know who he likes. You know where he's from. You know who he likes.
No,
I don't think I've ever met a referee.
I don't know where, Jim. I don't know where the hell you
bias.
got that from. That you say that some people are complaining about where he comes from. I haven't read that. I haven't seen that. It feels mischievous to me. I'm not worried about where the referee comes from. I just want him to be fair and honest. I expect him to have come through all those levels, and he's put all his life into being a referee. I'm hoping for honesty. Call me naive, call me old-fashioned, but that's what I'm hoping for, and I'm really expecting that from Kavanagh this weekend.
Not used to call out Mike Dean quite a lot? No?
Call him out?
Yeah. As to...
What, on the pitch?
Well, on this show, you've called him out a fair bit.
Give me an example of
well,
what calling him out.
You know, I
think I said when he went to work in the VAR room that, everything's going to be fine now, is it? And I think he proved that wasn't... Did
you not say he used to be a bit anti-Arsenal?
Well, there can be that feeling, but if he's the referee on the day, you have to wrestle with that emotion and get on with it and be
just
professional.
Just a little bit anti-Arsenal. Where do we get it from? Well, we get it from the phenomenon that is social media, which is available to everybody. You should get on it, Martin. And this week, there has been a lot of babble and talk, most of it rubbish, albeit, that this man Kavanagh might just favour City because he comes from Ashton-under-Lyne. But I agree with you. It's nonsense. It's rubbish. But it's there and it's real. It happens. I'm sure Mr. Kavanagh goes into it in a completely unbiased, impartial nature.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.